everyone, welcome to the Advanced Home Upgrade Q&A for the new incentive structure. I'm Emily Byerly-O'Brien, Team Associate for PG&E Programs. With me today I have Sarah Hvac, Manager of Contract Services, Torsten Glidden, Senior Manager of Policy and Technical Innovation, and Sandy Fischler, Senior Manager of Home Upgrade. Before we get started, we're going to go over some of the logistics of this program. On the GoToMeeting app, you'll have the ability to collapse and expand your side panel, enter full screen mode, and raise and lower your hand with the raise hand icon. Attendees can ask questions throughout the question or through the question panel, so go ahead and type your questions in as you think of them. Press submit and your question will be added into the queue. When we get to your question at the end of the presentation, we'll go ahead and unmute you so you can give us any further discussion or clarification if required. If time does run out and we're unable to answer your questions, we'll be sending out a PDF with all the questions and answers on February 15th. And we'll also have video recordings of this session on our Home Upgrade website. If you're having any issues with your audio, if you're using audio through your computer, you might want to call in through a phone. It usually has better audio that way. And if you're still having issues even after trying the phone, go ahead and call our training line, which is on the PowerPoint right there. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll pass the floor over to Sarah.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you first for taking the time out of your day to review the measure changes. So I'll be going through the main points to note first in terms of the change for the new AHUP measure structure. I'll review the measures in 3 sections. First, review the shell measures, HVAC measures, and then other measures. And then sort of the main point of this webinar really is to let you ask questions, any and all questions at the end of reviewing the measures and the changes. Okay, so the main points to note that we thought were important to broadcast first are incentives are now based on climate zones, based on CEC climate zone standards, and incentive amounts are now they are distinctive and they're set. And they're set relative to the average post-install metered savings in that particular climate zone. Modeling now, we're doing another shift and it won't be required for rebates, but that doesn't mean, it's not going away completely. We still highly recommend to offer that as a service to your customers. The pre-install, moving forward, it's going to be replaced with funds reservation. So depending on which measures you'd like to offer to your customer, within the portal there will be a way to see how many funds can potentially be reserved. There's a new measure with that offers 2 incentives, so the high performance HVAC install or ultimate comfort. And it has 2 incentives, an incentive that directly goes to you, the contractor, and an incentive that goes to the customer. So if you're approved to install this measure, you would receive $1,200 that goes directly to you, and the customer would receive $500 or $1,000, depending on their climate zone. And CAS testing is still a requirement both before and after the work is done. And then just to quickly review the fuel type or the customer fuel type requirements. So it's the same as before. Customers are eligible for the measures of which PG&E fuel type they have. So if they have all electric, they could only qualify for the electric fuel measures, only gas fuel measures, and also still same. So if they do have SoCal Gas and PG&E Electric, they could qualify for both electric and gas measures. That's the special circumstance there. But when in doubt, just look at their utility bill and let them know which measures they're eligible based off their fuel type, PG&E wise. Okay, so now just looking at the shell measures first. So the first one on the list is wall insulation. So for 2x4 framing, the minimum requirement R value is 13, and for 2x6, it will be 19 is the minimum. It must be installed per CEC QII standards with a minimum of the 50% total wall area has to be, the wall insulation has to be installed to qualify for that. For attic insulation, R44 or better is required, installed per CEC QII standards as well. You can see the climate zone list there. The climate zones do apply. Of course, again, you'll see a common theme. Depending on which climate zone your customer's in, that's the rebate that they'll qualify for. So 100% of the accessible attic area with a minimum of 50% of total attic area. Of course, different circumstances apply. I always provide pictures depending on those circumstances. And then next, floor insulation. So our value of 19 is the minimum. And again, 100% of accessible floor area and minimum of 50% of total floor area. So like the attic insulation, same requirements there. And then the last shell measure, so whole building envelope, air sealing and ventilation. So 15% building leakage reduction or 30% building leakage reduction is the requirement there. An 800 square foot conditioned area must be claimed for that particular measure. Okay. And just as a reminder, just must do a minimum of 4 measures, and 2 of which must be shell measures, and 1 HVAC is a requirement for the program moving forward. Okay, so HVAC measures, some new ducts and insulation, so replacement only. R8 for all climate zones with a 5% leakage or less. And 100% of accessible ducts and up to 2 systems per dwelling unit. So jumping below, so now you are able to claim up to 2 HVAC systems per dwelling unit. And so for the cooling, split AC must be 15 SEER or 12.5 EAR or better. For package units, 15 SEER and 12 EAR or better. And for heating, sealed gas furnace, 92% AFUE or better. And then for heat pump, 9.0 HSPF or better. And again, up to 2 HVAC systems per dwelling unit if they qualify and meet these specifications. And then last, as previously mentioned, so the high performance HVAC install, aka ultimate comfort, is you can now offer that, this measure to your customers. Again, you do have to be an approved contractor to install this measure. We'll have to go through the training and meet the 7 residential HVAC system commissioning specifications in order to claim that unit. And for this measure, only 1 system per household would be eligible. And so for this measure, again, if you do install it, a $1,200 rebate or incentive goes directly to you. And then to the customer, depending on the climate zone, $1,000 or $500. Okay, so just to broadcast this again, so the training is partially subsidized at 50% of confirmed training costs. Up to $4,000 could be offered for this. And we really highly recommend to reach out to your account rep to set up a preliminary call to discuss the training. If you haven't already, we welcome that. And to learn more about this measure, we have a page on the homeupgrade.org site under the Grow Your Business tab. And that goes over all of the requirements and has an example of the data collection sheet there as well. Okay, and now we have other measures, or they're sort of wildcard measures that you could add on to your scope of work. So we have the gas storage water heater, 0.7 efficiency or better, and then the condensing storage water heater, 0.9, and then electric storage water heater, 2.0 UEF or better. You are able to claim up to 2 units for the customer. So that's also available. And then the pool pump measure, only 1 pool pump per project site. And then it must be CEC Title 20 compliant. And like before with this program, it does have to be installed by a certified aquatic equipment installer. And we do post those trainings for that particular certification on homeupgrade.org website. And then, so now thermostats are a new measure that are offered. They must be Energy Star certified smart thermostats. In order to claim this measure, the unit must be Wi-Fi enabled and confirmed via test login. So in order to claim that measure, it's just important to note to take a picture of the thermostat screen logged in. And you can claim up to 2 thermostats per dwelling unit with the corresponding HVAC system that was claimed. And you're able to claim lighting, LED lights, and up to 25 per dwelling unit. And then at the very bottom, you'll see the maximum amount of incentives that can be claimed per project, depending on the climate zone. Great, and now we are opening it to you all. Any and all questions welcome. We want to facilitate a sort of dialogue, so I'll give it a moment and we'll let the questions come in. So 1 second.
It looks like we actually have a couple questions in so far from North Lennox. The first one is, does that mean SoCal rebates support fuel switching? If you want to elaborate, we can unmute you real quick.
So no to being able to incentivize fuel switching still. That issue is winding its way through the administrative law judge determination ruling process. And supposedly there will be some sort of response sometime this year, spring or summer, hopefully, latest. But no, currently the incentives still do not support fuel switching. So unfortunately, we'd love to see that in some cases, but that is still the rule for these programs.
Thank you. And the next question is, are there any rebates for windows?
So that measure is no longer available at this point in time. After some assessment, it's found that so the customer cost versus actual site savings is not equal. It's not beneficial. So moving away from offering a window incentives for this particular program.
And to elaborate just a little bit, the savings can be really good with windows. They're just very expensive to install. And so what happens is that the TRC value, related value in terms of that measure in the program is detrimental to the overall TRC, so the total resource cost, right? So because it's weighed against, the benefits are weighed against the cost, and the costs are super high, so it impacts the program negatively. And doesn't, sort of deliver the savings relative to costs that would be hoped otherwise.
Thank you, Torsten and Sarah. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Okay, perfect. Next question is, Are heat pump water heater rebates available to customers with gas? You're self-muted, North. Do you want to elaborate on that, or Torsten, Sarah, do you think, okay, no elaboration, so. Are heat pump water heaters rebates available to customers with gas? Torsten.
Customers can have gas, they just must have, their house, right? They just must have PG&E electricity and have an existing electric water heater, whether that's electric resistance or an older heat pump water heater.
Okay, yeah, and just to, so the only measure that's offered now is the electric storage water heater or gas storage water heater. So yeah, depending on the fuel type that the customer has and the existing unit that they have, that would dictate the measure and the incentive they'd be allowed to get.
Right. It is always the case with this program that in order for the customer to be eligible for an incentive on a particular measure, they must have fuel must be supplied by PG&E, or in the case of shared service territory, SoCalGas or PG&E, and that either PG&E or SoCalGas must supply the fuel type for that particular piece of equipment, and that it's not switching from one fuel source to another, and must be, of course, an improvement over existing.
Are these impacted by EVCE?
Can you
apparently, Bay Community Energy. You just clarified.
In terms of double dipping on an incentive, or I'm not quite sure what the context is.
So are you talking if it's like split service with PG&E and non-SoCal gas, or could you elaborate on what you mean by it being impacted?
So whenever, the only reason I bring up SoCal Gas is because there is this shared service territory that is SoCal Gas and PG&E electricity, but that's, San Luis Obispo County, northern Santa Barbara County. So if it doesn't impact him, then it's not really relevant, except for that, there are split service territories. So there are municipal utility districts, like the biggest near here, obviously, is SMUD in Sacramento. We have like Alameda and not Palo Alto because they supply both, but so they're no one's eligible there really. There's like Santa Clara Valley Power. There's a few other municipal utility districts around the area. There's Hvac. It is the case that if the piece of equipment for that measure selected is supplied by a different fuel supplier, electricity supplier, then it wouldn't be eligible under this program through PG&E. PG&E can't pay for the other utilities portion. The reason SoCal Gas is allowed is because PG&E and SoCal Gas have a pre-designed arrangement to be able to support single project submission and to be able to deliver the incentives for both sides of the fuel equation through that single project submission. But that is not the case with other municipal utility districts and propane providers and stuff like that. So you basically just have to focus on what portion of utilities are supplied by PG&E for what measures are eligible and available for a given project. That's the most consistent rule of thumb to follow.
Thank you. The next question we have from North is actually regarding, could you comment on the relationship of these rebates and the BayREN support for the home energy score?
I think, that they're not delivered in concert, together, but you can do a home energy score in the Bay Area and apply for the home energy score incentive through BayREN, as you currently do. And you can also get an incentive for these measures installed. But that goes through the Build It Green's PG&E funded program submittal, project submittal process. So they're separate documentation submission pathways, but they can be done on the same project.
Okay, perfect. It sounds like that answered his question. So do we have any other questions people have? It looks like we've reached the bottom of the queue, so we'll give it a minute or two. Looks like we might be out of questions. Oh, why require shell and HVAC together?
Can you say that question one more time, Emily? Why aren't shell?
Of course. Why do we require both shell and HVAC measures together?
I think that, from a philosophical standpoint, program design-wise, you want to keep as much of the energy efficiency improvements inside that building shell and envelope as possible. So that's why it's a whole house program. It's designed to have at least some improvement in terms of the building shell and envelope in order to better facilitate that goal of, actually keeping the conditioned air, whether cooling or heating inside that building envelope, if at all possible, to the maximum extent possible.
They were commenting that it's often separate contractors, so that's where that question came from.
It can be, but we have quite a few participants that are home performance contractors that do both, or they're B licensed and they subcontract out, just like on any other project, to multiple subcontractors that perform different portions of the project installation.
We also want to encourage those kinds of partnerships to form between smaller contractors that have the appropriate licensing and background to do this kind of work. Because as Torsten mentioned, the savings come from gas and electric fuels, and the predominant use of those in most residential homes is heating and cooling. So the better job we do at delivering conditioned air and keeping it in the living space, which is your HVAC and shell measures, the more savings we end up delivering back to ratepayers and customers.
Okay, perfect. North wants to be unmuted, so we're going to go ahead and give you the floor to elaborate. So when you unmute yourself, you can explain. Go ahead and explain. You're unmuted, North, but we can't hear you yet.
Hey, North, so sorry. I think we're still having audio issues on our end. We'll try to parse out your question as much as possible if you're able to type it out again. Not sure if you've muted yourself or if your computer doesn't have a microphone. We see that you're talking, but we cannot hear you, unfortunately.
The part North was going to elaborate on.
Schedule a follow-up call with a customer engagement rep if you want.
We can definitely. We'll give you a call back after this call. Thank you.
All right, we got your phone number, so like Sarah said, we'll go ahead and call you after this. Last call for any questions. All right, so thank you all for attending. It looks like we are out of questions, and we hope We hope this was able to clarify some of what's coming down the line, and thank you. We will talk to you later, and we'll post this by the 15th along with questions and answers that came from this webinar and the other ones we've had over the course of the week.